They're able to get away with this because they rule through fear and intimidation. So let's take a look at how the Mafia rules without guns. Welcome back, everybody. I am your host. And today we are going to talk about how the Mafia rules without guns. If there is one thing that all mafias have in common, it would be that they're not afraid to use violence when necessary. However, surprisingly enough, most of them actually don't like using guns. This is because if they do end up using a gun, there's always the chance that it might backfire, or it could be traced back to them. This also leads to a lot of heat from the police. Therefore, they prefer to handle things themselves with their bare hands. So here are 7 ways the Mafia rules without guns. Number 1. Cash and favors. Money is one of the main reasons people get involved in the Mafia. They can make a lot of money here, so much so that some people are willing to risk their lives for it. For example, one of the most well-known mafias in the world, the Sicilian Mafia, was making about $1.3 billion per year in the early 90s. Now, of course, we're talking about an entire organization here. But the fact that such a huge amount is possible is pretty mind-blowing. Because of this, when someone gets arrested and brought into the Mafia, they need to pay a certain amount of cash before they can get in. The amount is called the pizzo. The cash is meant to show that the new member has some money and isn't a liability. It also acts as insurance in case he gets arrested. This way, the Mafia will pay his lawyer fees and bail him out. Apart from cash, members of the Mafia also offer favors. These could be anything from selling drugs for them, or doing odd jobs that only a civilian would be willing to do. It's basically a test to see if they can be trusted or not. If they can't, then they're kicked out of the organization. However, if they pass the test, they are usually accepted into the family. In most cases, the person has to go through several layers of recommendations before getting into the Mafia. They need to prove that they are trustworthy and won't run to the police. 2. Intimidation. A lot of people get into the Mafia because they want to make money. However, a lot of people also get intimidated by the lifestyle and the reputation of the Mafia. We've seen in movies how scary the Mafia can be. Even just mentioning the word Mafia is enough to send shivers down people's spines. If you ever meet a person who doesn't react to the name Mafia, then chances are he's already part of the organization or he's been offered a generous sum not to react. Either way, it's best not to approach anyone from the Mafia and stay out of their territory. For the most part, the Mafia likes to keep a low profile. They don't want to attract any unnecessary attention from the public or the police. That's why you rarely hear about them until something goes wrong. It's also a way for them to control their image. They're known to be violent and ruthless, but apart from that, they're also honorable in a strange sort of way. Of course, they do things like tax evasion, extortion, and selling drugs. But they also like to make sure that they help those in need, especially their own people. It's important to note that the Mafia is mainly an Italian term and refers to a brotherhood. So helping each other is kind of like a brotherly duty. No. 3. Bribery. One of the easiest ways the Mafia gets away with what they do is through bribery. They have been around for hundreds of years now and know exactly where to look for potential recruits. Most of these people are honest citizens who don't want to be involved with the Mafia. However, they are also poor and desperate for money. So when the Mafia offers them a few extra bucks under the table for some information, they agree. These people usually work in government offices and can give the Mafia valuable information about upcoming projects, laws, and policies. With this information, the Mafia can decide whether or not it's worth trying to profit off the situation. Sometimes they also bribe officials to turn a blind eye to their activities. For example, in the past, the Mafia bribed cops to not arrest them, and even gave judges money to rule in their favor. They used to be so powerful that they even had a judge named Judge Im. He was willing to do anything for money and passed many Mafia-related laws that were favorable to them. Number 4. Murder. It should come as no surprise that the Mafia uses murder to keep their business running smoothly. After all, it's probably the most effective way to deal with traitors, enemies, and witnesses. There are hundreds of thousands of Mafia-related deaths every year, and we may never find out the true number. The Mafia is one of the deadliest organizations in history and has been responsible for some of the most brutal crimes. One of the most famous Mafia bosses, Lucky Luciano, was able to maintain his power for so long because he didn't hesitate to order hits on anyone who crossed him. He was also known for ordering mass killings. During the mafia wars of the early 20th century, he ordered the killing of hundreds of rival gang members. Apart from rivals, the mafia also kills anyone who threatens their business. For example, a witness who saw a crime being committed, someone who took too much money from the mafia, or someone who tried to blackmail the organization. It doesn't matter if the person is a member of the mafia or not. If they have seen or heard something they shouldn't have, they will be killed. The mafia also has a code of silence. When someone is killed, the other members aren't allowed to talk about it, even to the police. If they do, they will face severe punishment, including being kicked out of the organization and even death. 5. Code of silence. The code of silence, also known as, is a tradition in the mafia that has been around for centuries. It's an unwritten law that says that mafia members cannot talk to the police about what happens in the organization. This is to protect the mafia from the authorities and to make sure that no one knows what goes on behind closed doors. The code of silence is taken very seriously, and any member who breaks it is severely punished. They may be kicked out of the organization or even killed. This makes it very hard for the police to gather intelligence on the mafia and brings them one step closer to being untouchable. Omerta is also taught to the children of mafia members, so they grow up knowing that it's important to keep secrets. This helps the mafia to keep their operations hidden and to make sure that their enemies don't know what they're replanning. The code of silence is one of the reasons why the mafia has been around for so long. It makes it very hard for the authorities to catch them and brings them one step closer to being untouchable. 6. Family. As we said before, the mafia is mostly made up of families. Each family is led by a boss and is responsible for carrying out illegal activities in their territory. The boss is the highest-ranking member of the family and is responsible for making sure that everything runs smoothly. He is also the one who gives the orders for hits and other violent activities. The family members are loyal to each other and will do anything to protect one another. This includes going to prison or even dying. The family is also very secretive and doesn't like to talk about what happens behind closed doors. This makes it very hard for the authorities to gather intelligence on them, and also brings them one step closer to being untouchable. The mafia family is a tight-knit group of people who trust each other more than anyone else. They are loyal to each other and will do anything to protect one another. 7. Respect. In order for the mafia to function properly, they need to be respected by both their members and the people around them. Members need to respect each other and the boss, and the people around them need to respect the mafia in order for them to be successful. Respect is earned by being loyal, keeping secrets, and following orders. The mafia also demands respect from their rivals and enemies. If they don't get it, then they will be forced to earn it the hard way. Respect is one of the most important things to the mafia. They demand respect from their rivals and enemies. They will force them to respect them if they have to. Respect is earned by being loyal, keeping secrets, and following orders. The mafia also demands respect from their rivals and enemies. If they don't get it, then they will be forced to earn it the hard way. Well, that's all for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.